All right. Good morning and welcome to Morning Man. It's a beautiful Monday morning. And this morning, Charlotte and I have a guest. Charlotte, good morning. How are you?
Good morning, Rhonda. Here. Bright eye and bushy tail.
That's right. Tell us, who did you bring on today? Who's our
So,
guest?
so today I brought on a special young lady, um, Melissa Castellanos Espat. Melissa is not only a special guest, she's also my sister, but she has been doing many wonderful things in the community. And one of them that I'm extremely proud of is she's bringing back plays to Belize, something that we grew up on. Of course, Rhonda, I'm always reminiscing on back, but something that we grew up, but it's not just a play, it's that the plays touch many social issues that are happening in the community. And it brings to light a lot of these concerns.
Mhm. Melissa, good morning and welcome. Besides
Hi.
being Charlotte's sister, which I'm sure is the highlight of our day, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, first of all, good morning. Thank you for having me. So I uh I grew up in a South Side Belize city. I think Charlotte and I have so much similarities where, you know, I grew up on Muscle Street, which is very South Side, and then moved on to Lake Independence, deeper South Side. But I did attend Catholic schools all my life, Holy Redeemer, and then St. Catherine Academy, and then I went to SJC. And with that, I think growing up in these particular schools, I developed this fond for making changes, doing things differently. I am divorced and I have three amazing children and a grandchild. And the way how we work in our household is that all of us are responsible for social change. It's something very important. Um, so yeah, and I like writing. I opened my small, a very little consultancy called Reading Rights a couple of years ago, actually 2021. And I decided that, I'm going to use my language skills to kind of help out with writing, any kind of writing activities, proofreading, editing. So it's not something that always does, but when I do have it, I enjoy working on it. And in 2022, I decided to do a fundraiser for St. Martin's de Porres, and I worked on a play. Well, it was already sometime it was already a play, but we couldn't find the script, and I called Evan X. Hyde and I asked first of all permission to use his play, and he told me to go ahead. I rewrote the play. I took the short story that he had and I made it into a play. And I realized that I really did miss it because in 2012 I did Bekalam on stage for St. Catherine's, and I love that too. And it really brought me back some joy in writing and working with young people and having them learn the the the, the wonderful experience that theater brings, and even how to read literature, you know, as a whole. So a little bit about me.
There you go. Why is this important to you? People would say, Melissa, we're living in 2025. Anything we want to see, they're on Netflix, big screen TV, on our phone, YouTube. Why is it important for you to bring back something like this?
Well, first of all, there's a thirst here in Belize for theater. People want something to do. And I also feel that for young people, we tend to think that they're all about electronics, but there is a space for them. I've seen it where they're eager to learn. They're fascinated by something that's not in their time. You know, they ask questions, um, they get to learn history. Um, and I recently made a study, one that I'm going to be presenting at the Culture Symposium at the end of this month. But I did a research saying that, theater actually helps with literature. It allows students to be very much engaged in what they read and understand what they're reading. And above all, it kind of makes them analyze things better. We have lost significantly the level of participation of students in literature. I taught at an all-girls high school for many years, and literature was something that it was fondly received. And then COVID came, and I saw like a spiral down attitude to literature. And it's sad because it's through literature that we understand how life is for cultures, for the writers. And when I started with theater, I had to get students to be in it, and I noticed how they changed. They lit up, and now when I do have a play, I have tons of students coming to me. Do you want help? Would you like me to be a part of it? Can I help backstage? Can I help with makeup? Um, and sometimes it's just like too many students. I don't have enough space for them. But in this case, I think what the theater does, it moves them away from all the Netflix and the social media and the TikTok. In fact, we're working with it, because what we've been doing lately, we've been using TikTok to do reels, and we're advertising our play with it. So it's not like we're dismissing it totally. We're not saying it doesn't exist. Our marketing that we're doing, which they are running, it's mostly, using social media, Instagram and TikTok being heavily utilized here. And so it's them knowing what they know, me knowing what I know, merging them together, and at the end having people coming in to see them. And they're encouraging other students, they're encouraging other young people to come in. So that's for them. Theater is not only for them though. It's really like what Charlotte said, it's nostalgic. Remembering going to the Bliss and sitting to watch Beverly Smith, the Darling, and it's something that we have lost. And I see a lot of elderly people coming in, and people my age loving it, because what you get on the stage is totally different from what you're getting on a screen. It
Oh,
has to be rehearsed. They have to know the lines. They have to be character. So they enjoy it. They truly do.
Charlotte, jump right in. I know it must be really kind of weird talking to your sister on this platform. But I have 1,000 questions. But first, I'm going to let Charlotte jump in with one.
I like what Melissa says about literature because more and more we're seeing it with our young people that I know with my nieces and nephew when it's time to tell them to pick up a book, it's like you're killing them
Yeah.
when you're telling them. And so I find myself looking for books that will engage them, that will pique their interest so they can pick it up. But bringing events such as this, bringing back the plays, it gives them the opportunity to see, be out, like Melissa said, outside of the network pieces and social media, so they can see the opportunity of if you open that book, the many things that can come out of it. But right now, I'm curious to hear about who the Willy Pa,
Mm,
because we fast. So,
right. I want to hear who that Willy Pa, but I also want to talk a little bit about the real social issue, and because some of we don't know who that we pa. And when I say that, because that
Yes.
is the society that we have lived in for so long. Some of we they call Tom Jones pa, when really John is our father, because there was no DNA testing back then. And I have a friend was say, he said, whoever bed the picnic body now, that the park. So I don't understand all of that behind what used to happen then. So yeah, like Charlotte said, we want to know who that Willy Pa, and then we have a whole lot of question after that.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to fathers, Belize has a very um cold attitude. And I'm not saying all of Belize because we have good men. We do have good men, but we have men who abandon their children completely and they do not see there's their responsibility. Um, it's I never really when I wrote the play, it was never about the father relationship with their children. I didn't even think about that until you all are telling me. So I'm kind of like speechless at the time when it comes to at this moment when it comes to father figures. But you know, in the play, because this is part two from a play that I wrote last year. Last year was Scatterbrain Willie. And Scatterbrain Willie didn't grow up with a dad. He grew up with a mom, with a single mom. And she says it, her dad, his dad left them when he was a baby, but the other characters kept telling him, ask your mother who your father. And eventually, in the end, she says, well, he don't look like me and he don't look like a pa. And I guess it could be that he's not the dad, but I mean, I like men and nothing wrong with that. So in this play, Willie, who is now successful, he's rich, he has lived in America.
Mhm.
Um, he comes and he writes a letter to his mom and says, guess what? All of this could be yours. All of this could be, I could get you a maid, you could get your own house, you don't have to worry about groceries. You have everything. All you have to do is to tell me who my daddy is. And that's what causes this entire journey into telling him the truth. And it's in the end, does he find out?
Probably not. I don't know.
Maybe not. It's her really thinking, is it worth it? Is it worth me telling him everything that I went through to have him? And um, does he need to know? And that's the thing. In the end, she decides, I don't think you need to know. But the audience does find out who the daddy is.
Well,
Just
then
Willie.
Okay, well, we have to go to
we
the
want
play to
to know
find
who
out.
that is. We want to know if she even know who that is,
Oh,
because
she knows.
she
She
know
knows.
who that is.
She knows.
That's important because when
Yes.
we see these plays, the first thing we do is laugh, right? Like it's funny.
Yes.
It
Yes.
attracts our. It's humorous. I want to say good morning to my
Yes.
village friend, my village boy, Victor Stevens. Morning, um, and to all the ones watching in here. When we see these things, we laugh. But there's a reality that that there's a real social issue that it affects or that it brings up in our spirit. But how do we get people to address the social issue and not only laugh?
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about that. See, so let me just give you a little background as what's gonna happen. The main character's name is Sharona, and Sharona is a one. She's poor. She's a sanitation worker, and so she lives her thing is, Bowen and Bowen said that they call people like them refundees, that
Right.
they're refundees, right? So that she's a refundee. She works picking up garbage. She's tired at the end of the day. She likes to take her little tat, and a little
Good.
tat like every minute. So
Wally
lots of tats.
Batman.
She is also a high school dropout. But the reason she's a high school dropout is because she gets pregnant in high school, right? So we go into the thing, and she gets a letter, and there's a flashback to 1999. Do you remember what you were doing in 1999?
I kind of do. I had a 2-year-old child trying to figure out how to feed her.
1999, I was in Belize with 3 kids.
Right.
Uh, yes.
Yeah.
I was I was pregnant with Mary Frances. I was, yeah, well,
Yeah.
September 1999, I was very pregnant. But at the same time, I thought that, oh, everything was perfect. I'm a happy married woman. I have my house. I'm gonna have a baby. But the truth is, I was only what, 23, and I hadn't seen anything in life. I thought that getting married was the epitome of life, and I learned later on that no, a lot of things could have been happening in 1999. But what we do know is that Carnival was a big thing. I do remember Carnival that day, and the music was loud and it was nice, and I was remembering that I missed that. Watching Carnival, I was standing by the roadside and I missed it. But so this one takes them into Carnival night, and Sharona decides that she want a boyfriend. She want a boyfriend, so she goes in search of a boyfriend, and she goes to one of those a very popular bars in Belize. I don't even want to go through. It's more of a are you familiar with the Miss Maria's bars? Yes, it's a Miss
Yes.
Maria bar.
What?
A Miss Maria bar.
It's a Miss Maria bar. It's not a real bar. It's a kind of bar. Like we would have say Ghana one of them girly bars. I
There's
think
Oh,
another term for it, but I can't say it right now because this is live. So
right.
no,
Ghana one of them girly bars. One features bars. I think that like they kind of
yes,
branded.
features. It's a features bar,
Right.
and even that I had to teach the
Charlotte still last for the record. She don't know what our features bar. Okay.
oh,
I could
Palauti girl. I don't know those things.
I think
I would text you privately. Hold on.
Uh,
gosh.
yeah,
Right. Right.
it's you know, it's so nostalgic, and that's what I love. I love to go back in
Right.
time,
So that one.
and I think that's
It's
why
interestingly,
the plays
yeah. Did you
is
get it? She's from,
you were frozen for a minute. Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, so I think that it's the nostalgia now. Melissa is bringing up names and things and I know a lot of our, um, I won't say elders, but a lot of our,
Mature.
the the mature audience wants something to do in Belize, and um it's good entertainment, and it takes them back to what we used to go to, like Duda Darling and Beverly Smith. I know I used to be at all those plays, and those were enriching. It was enlightening. I think um that was one of the reasons why Tyler Perry got popular. His plays was very um was put off very well, and lots of audience showed up in Georgia. So I think that's the unfortunately every time Melissa does her plays, I am not in Belize, and she's doing her play right at the day after my birthday. So I'd say the play is in tribute to me.
Of course. Yeah. The features bar is something actually I learned more while writing this. It's not something that everybody's aware of it unless you are actively going to them to these kinds of bars. Like you go to a bar, you buy a beer, and the beer costs $15, $5 for the gal, $5 for the beer, and $5 for the owner.
Or something like that. There's
Something
some
like that.
system in there. There's a system in there.
Yes, they
Um,
have like a whole like
it's a
really
different world. And
advanced.
I think a lot of people, well, for me, I learned more about this features bar because I was in Ladyville maybe in my 30s or so, and they used to have this bar called Blue Bar. and it was on the way home, and we'd stop in there, and that's when I realized like what that was, because we'd stop to get a beer or whatever, and then we see these things. We didn't go in there for that, but that was there, and so we're like, and there were so many questions behind the features. But anyway, tell me the story because we want to put on Willy Pa before we go.
Yeah, so she finds all these men in there, and um she flirts with all of them. She flirt up to with the policeman and all, like she just wants, but keeping in mind that it's her friend, and her friend Nanette, the boring nerdy one, and her other friend who's Terrence, who attends an all-boys school, and they two are going to an all-girls school. They're convent girls looking for boyfriend because they need to have a boyfriend before prom. So yeah. But the other thing is they're in scholarship. One of them is on scholarship and she's scared of losing her scholarship. And the next one is like, stop the B, Wally. Wally, boring head. Just let's go. And it leads into meeting all these men. And it's not necessarily that she wants to sleep with them. It's just like she wants a boyfriend. She wants what everybody else has. And it becomes then the question. We've had so much. So part one of the play is all humor, extremely funny. But it's the second part that starts grabbing at your chest.
Right.
It's a two-part, it's a part one, part two, but I call it a comedy tragedy because it is at the end of act one that you kind of know what will happen. In act two, it will tear your heart. We've been doing rehearsals and it has been a emotional roller coaster to the point where we have these debates, like I've seen the last one that we had two practices like before, just constant this is why this is I have Tremette Period in it too, and Charmaine Garcia. They're the mature ones, and then everybody else are younger because it's 2025 and you're only 17. And
Right.
so I had to get young people. Um, the future politician, the future police, the papi chulo, uh, who else comes in? The the politician's bodyguard. So you have like a whole lot of all these characters coming in, and we see just her like battling, like, oh, I want that one. No, I want that one. It's like an array of men. I can pick from by this big pot of men, but it does become very challenging for her. And that's a debate that we've had, which is something that will come up, especially hopefully the conversations after the play. Why does who is it to blame that she gets pregnant? Who do we blame? And I know Tramet and Charmaine had a heated discussion.
They're hot.
It's yes, and he tells her, like, in the rehearsals, and he shouts at her, this is why women will never hear because you don't want to listen to what we have to say. And she's like, no, because well, you the center make no sense. And it just everybody was boiled up, and you had Team Charmaine and Team Tramet, and everybody's, and I said, this is what I want. That's exactly what I want to stir up conversation. And this one definitely will. So as much as funny as it is, this one is real. And we're looking at the imbalance of power that women have. And this is something that we've seen recently where women have very little choices in what happens to them, especially if they're dating. The men have control over the relationship, and it's much of a Belizean thing. This weekend, somebody said that we cannot continue normalizing it and calling it a culture, but it has become a culture where men feel that they have power over women, that they feel that, I have to have so much woman in my life, and if you want me, you better deal with it. You have to understand that that's how life is. You know, in the past year, we've seen struggles with relationships, and I wanted to touch on it. You know, we've seen things of um older men, younger women, older men, younger men, and we've seen how relationships are just controlled by this idea that, you know, a man could do whatever they want because it's a for their woman, and I will give you money. And then there was another post that said, you know, you might then think that you want your wife, your girl all to yourself, but truth is, she have baby daddy, she have money was sponsor for pampers, she have money, person was sponsor for food, she have the money with the man was sponsor for look. So while you feel like you have her, she have five other man they tend to her. But then what happens whenever you have like, okay, I'm gonna pay for your hair, but that's from me, and then you go find out you have somebody else, then that's where the fighting starts and the abuse starts. And then we start saying, well, whose fault was it in the first place? You know? And the idea that, okay, first of all, we even had to have that conversation. The mere fact that you should not hit a woman, that should be point blank. You should have known that. You know, you should respect women. Yes, women need to respect themselves too. Nobody has that right to be hitting anyone. And I think that's one of the things that I wanted to kind of relate in in this play, that there is no place for any kind of abuse. None. And we have to talk about it. As a culture, we need to talk about it and take a position, you know?
You know, last week, Rhonda and I and Ray, we touched on domestic violence, and domestic violence is something that is it's a issue that is near and dear to my heart, and it's something that I have no tolerance for. But we also see there's so much social issues that we see, and it's for us, it's very in front of us in Belize. We're a very small country, right? And you know, we have the issue where they say that it's 9 man, no, 9 women to 1 man, and then we have the domestic violence where we grow up. Many of us grew up seeing it in our community, in our neighborhood,
Yeah.
the machismo piece, and then it takes us into that mental health, the mental health history. And you know, I sat this weekend, I have my girlfriend visiting, and we were talking about it. And then I had another friend from Belize came over, and over dinner we were discussing the mental health portion, and most of us laugh about it. And I've touched on it a little with Rhonda about mental health, but we've had many women in our society when we were growing up that suffered from mental health, that ended up homeless and were on the streets. As kids, we grew up knowing that we teased them, but we really didn't know what the history was behind these women on the streets. And then now we're seeing more suicide issues that are coming up. So the mental health is another portion that is huge on. It's one of the issues too that I try to focus on a lot, and whatever we can do to help, because I don't think we have enough resources in our country to address the mental health issue. And more, I don't know how you guys feel about it, but more and more it's coming up, and it's coming up amongst our young people. And I cringe when I see some of these young people that I thought were going to be big and do well, and now I see them deteriorated or on the streets or on drugs because our society didn't know what to do with them, and many of them we shun upon. We do shun upon mental health.
You know, I think mental health, we should really, at some point in time in the near future, have this discussion in a more lengthy way, because it is not only with men and women in relationships. I mean, we see the situation with the police officer. He, in my opinion, something has to be wrong with him for him to have done that. That is not a normal thing. I mean, allegedly, he shot two people and still send out condolence to them the next day or whenever it is. I mean, there's just a lot going on in our society. We see two young people losing their lives again. I mean, mental health is a real thing. And you see, back in our day, it appears that, and I'll use this term loosely, I don't want nobody come to me in my inbox because I can't see it. When people say, oh, I'm okay with seeing the crazy people, if you will, because it's easy to know how to deal with those people. But now, people that are suffering with mental health disorder, they look like me and you. They look normal. They go to work. They drink their coffee. They work in their office. They have good position, for lack of a better term, and then they're suffering inside. So we need to create a space where it is okay to say, I'm not okay. And nobody want them behind it to say, oh, I hear Rhonda crazy. Well, that they probably done here a long time, but I just accept for this time that they say, oh, I hear Rhonda crazy. I hear Charlotte the losing mind. Yeah, you might hear Rhonda crazy and Charlotte the losing mind, but Rhonda and Charlotte and Melissa, we need a place where we can have this discussion just the same way when everybody could go to work and say, girl, my back, they hurt me today. And it's normal. They are find a way to try and help you with your back pain. But the minute they hear that you're not do good in your head, everybody shut up. Nobody wants to say, well, maybe you could go to Monarch counseling, or maybe you could go here, or maybe you, that conversation there, no open. But let's get back to figure out who that Willy Pa, because I want to know. I have so many questions. I want to know where I can see it. I want to know for people that are not in Belize, like Charlotte or Wandera, Florida, or somewhere in the States, is there a possibility that we can see it, and not maybe not only see it, but to contribute to it in some way, because it takes contribution, it takes a lot of work, I would imagine, a lot of resources for a play like this to come to a stage. So how can we as a society help to support, even, I mean, it would be good if we can see it, but even if we can't see it?
Okay, so first of all, it's a great question because some of the proceeds from the play will go to the Belize Family Life Association, BFLA. And you brought up a good point. Shar said that we have limited resources, but we do, it's not that we don't have resources, it's that people are scared of utilizing the resources. They're ashamed of asking for help. The help is there. We have so many professionals. In fact, BFLA offers that service to anyone. And which is one of the reasons that I chose BFLA as my advocacy group. Um, they have tickets to sell. The Bliss will have tickets to sell. Lady Esquivel Price Company, they're selling tickets for us too. And unfortunately for this one, we tried the online streaming, and we haven't perfected it yet. So until we can, then unfortunately there is no way that you all can see the play unless you come to Belize. Take a trip and come to Belize. But for anybody who is out there and traveling to Belize, um, I would really appreciate that you take some time and visit us and see what we're doing and how we're exemplifying social change. You know, this whole idea was not, I guess, not, it's not that it wouldn't happen, but it was like a seed implanted in me that Father Tom Green, who is the provincial of the Society of Jesus, he's stationed in St. Louis. He once just kind of said, hey, how do you feel about theater for advocacy? And we never had the conversation again, but it was implanted in me. And that's how I've realized I have a responsibility. I have a responsibility to be the voice for the marginalized and the voiceless. And so if anybody wants to join me in that cause, come to the Bliss to see what's happening. It is fun, but it's a conversation that will happen afterwards is what we're looking for, you know. And it would be really interesting to see that, people do actually have that conversation and to be at the Bliss and kind of comment on these characters. And what happens when the girl gets pregnant? Who takes care of her? Especially in a very vulnerable, in a very marginalized society. Who takes care of you? You know, we're also from that culture. Oh, well, you get pregnant, go figure it out for yourself. And that's why so many young ladies are out there. My former principal, Sister Caritas Lawrence, may she rest in peace, said there are there's three strikes against a woman. She's uneducated, she's black, and she's poor. Three strikes. So when you have education, you take advantage of it because that's the only way you're going to move forward. And I think when she started the whole pregnancy policy, it was because of that, because of those three strikes. So if I kick you out, you have nothing. You
Right.
will have absolutely nothing. And that's one of the realities that we face, that many schools don't agree with the pregnancy policy, especially, you know, particular Catholic schools who tell
Right.
you if you get pregnant, they kick you out. Sure,
Right.
they have no school, but because you're supposed to be a virgin and you have to keep your virginity for forever till you get married. And what is it? What is that teaching our young people? That you
You
have to get married and okay, I am and like yes, get married if you really want to get yes, but that is not the answer to a woman's future. And that's what people, young ladies are being taught, and that really, really upsets me. You know, like women are out there having sex because guess what? It's 2025 and it's happening. And somebody said, well, maybe they're not teaching catechesis correctly. Maybe not. So then what? Because it's not being taught correctly, we have to close our eyes and close our ears and say, oh, well, if you get pregnant, you still have to get married. No.
you
And
know, we have a lot of and we have a lot of ways that are that keeps us in a dark space. It's not that we are saying, I mean, I went to politics and I can tell you my experience there. No, it's okay to say it. You know why? Because that's the reality. The reality is that we knew that there were girls at St. Catherine that were getting a second chance, if you will. That is
yes,
what was in my opinion. This is my opinion. They were getting a second chance. They were not. Nobody want to get pregnant. Let me just explain that one time. Nobody said,
yeah,
"Oh, tomorrow I go out and I go and get pregnant." But I feel that those girls had a second chance. The girls that went to school with me, we didn't get a second chance. So we had different rules. I don't know what it created, or I can now as an adult, as I sit here, I can see some of the issues that it could have created. Could have created maybe more girls were having abortion in this school than in that school.
yes,
I don't know what the situation is, but I do recognize that some people lost the opportunity to get a good education because of that. So now they have two potentially uneducated people in a house. Because if the mother is not strong, the child is probably not going to be as strong, and then the cycle continues. So I have to say in on this platform, since we get the opportunity, for not only in the schools, but for some of these ways to be changed.
right,
Not that we're not teaching our children the right way, and nobody to tell their children go out there, go have sex, go get pregnant. But there are children that don't listen. There are
yeah,
children that are not going to follow the rules. Everybody wants their children to have the best life. But if it is to happen, we want to also, just like our good parent, we want to give them a second opportunity. We want to give them
right,
a second chance, a place to support themselves. But I think that these are conversations that, Melissa, you have opened, you have started, and I'm hoping that we can continue with these conversations as the days go by, because the conversation has to start somewhere, and nobody want to call it out. I am a good God-fearing woman. I believe in God. I don't want nobody comment only to say what I want. But I also realize that we're living on earth. And as living on earth, we have some challenges that we have to try and figure out how to navigate it. Nobody wants their child to be having sex at 14, 15, 16, 17 years old. Nobody wants that. Nobody's saying, nobody, I can't imagine a parent saying, oh, How's your sex life? Sitting down having a conversation like that with a child. However, these things could be happening.
Right.
So the conversations should be had in a productive way to try and eliminate it. And if it does happen, to create some second chance. Let a my rant for the day.
Yeah.
Morning, Ingrid. Morning, all the political gal in there. Morning to all of them. Good morning, Miss Money.
Melissa, the cringe, because
Shoot,
there's a real
shoot down the
politics
SCA
between you.
girl.
No, I didn't shoot down the SCA gal. I said the SCA gal and get a better opportunity in
Yeah,
a
yeah.
many
No,
ways.
it's what you said. All the Palota people are there, and then here I am, the SCA girl being cornered.
Oh, no, no,
We've
no, no,
always
no,
had that
no.
rivalry.
You
Um,
know, we just grew up in a time when, in my opinion, some people were a little bit more advanced than others. That's just the bottom line. But I'm telling you one thing for that nice school. It really give us some good girls. Okay, look at me, Charlotte.
I'm looking, I'm looking.
I'm just pulling it in.
Um,
Right.
yeah, I agree. The idea is that, what is the lesson that we want to teach? I
Right,
have a, I have a I have a story of a young lady who um got pregnant. She was in Fort Farm. I taught her, and I saw the bump, and I said, you need to report this, because guess what? If you don't, you might be risking your graduation. And I remember the powers that be telling the young lady, so are you gonna get married? I nearly dropped down. I nearly jumped off of my chair. And she's like, well, the young man did ask me to get married, but I'm not ready for that. And they kept instilling, but that's the best thing that you should do, and you should get married. And I'm in that office, and I was cringing. And in the end, they asked me, like the young lady left, and she's like, why didn't you agree with us that she should get married? And I said, because she shouldn't get married. That's not what a marriage is. You don't get married because you get pregnant. And that's one of the bigger issues that we've seen, like, oh, you get pregnant, oh, you have to hurry get married. And if you don't get married, then figure it out yourself. If you don't want to listen to me and you don't want to get married, then get out of my house and go find how you deal with your child. And it was not something that, when I was attending SCA, it was never about when will you get married. It's okay, now you get educated. And Charlotte and I always joke about that Palette girls is an SCA girls that, and she said, well, SCA girl and like man, yeah, guess why? Because I never did teach me about you have to fight for your husband and keep married. It was something always that it was instilled in us that we are competitive and we need to be pushing in this world, and you make your mark in the world. And sometimes, yes, our mark is being a mother. And some other people, that's not necessarily the highlight. Like, yeah, yes, it's a highlight. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying it totally wrong. It's 6 a.m. here, so I talk full. But it's more of there are other things that you can do
right,
to empower yourself and be a better mom. Being a wife does not necessarily make you the best mom. You can be a single mother too. And we've seen so many single women do it. You know, a lot of shade from society, but in the end, they did it and they made us better for that. My mom was a single mom, and my grandmother was a single woman, and my aunt, and all we were a very matriarchal family where everybody had to put in their part. So wherever my mom, when she couldn't do something, then my grandmother stepped in. And when she could, then my aunt stepped in. But it was never about, oh, you get pregnant, you have to hurry get married. My grandmother said, no, we're gonna deal with it. It was me though. She said to me, I don't want nobody else get pregnant out of this house. The day you get pregnant, you better hurry get married. And it did happen to me. And I did get married because I was pregnant. And it happened for the wrong reasons. We don't start off a marriage because of the pregnancy. We start off a marriage to build a family. So I don't know. It's a lot of conversations, it's so heavy for early in the morning
well,
Monday.
I think this is the best time to have it. I do realize that it's a lot of conversations, but I think it's a lot of conversation that needs to be had. I think we have to have more of these conversations because I think a lot of, especially I always say young women, right? But also a lot of young men out there, they need to know how to navigate it's a lot of, I think a lot of the pressure, and again, I'm not trying to keep the conversation long because I know that we want, and somebody else has said something away and there till 5 o'clock this evening. But because of the fear and the lack of support, that is why I think some of the young men run. They don't want to lose their high school
Right.
education. They don't want to be a part of that, and because they are able to hide it, then they just disappear. But if I feel like if they had a place where they can come and still contribute and still move along, they would feel a little bit differently. They would not be as it would not be so easy. They would not have enough reason to abandon this decision or this choice that they made. And I think that is one of the things that we have to instill in the men in our society. You have to take ownership for what you do,
Yes.
not because you can hide mean you should hide.
Right.
And those are conversations that have to be had. And I think that it's unfortunate that these conversations most of the time are being had by women. We need some men to communicate this message to the young men so that they can have some examples and a place to go back to, because we the women, we are different from men, and being different sometimes is just what it takes for a boy child to say, I can't go to my mom with this, or I can't go to Charlotte or whoever
Yeah.
with this. I wish I had a man, whatever that means to them. But so of course I could say who that Willy Pa, because I really want to know who that Willy Pa.
It's October 24th and 25th at the Bliss Center for the Performing Arts. The 7 p.m. both nights, and I have a whole list of sponsors that have believed in us, and at the top of that is the special envoy for the development of families and children,
Wait,
a niche, and well, BFLA, they're the advocacy group. So, but apart from that, the government of Belize in different sectors, economic development, human development, have very much said, yes, we believe in what you're doing. So we're so happy for that. Bowen and Overdrive, they're going to be the biggest sponsors. Like, you'll see them everywhere, but they also believe in this cause. But I have a whole list of people who have done they have incredibly donated to us. Atlantic Bank, Belize Bank, we have Ishel Karim, who I force her, like, without even she knows she to give. But Ishel Karim is there. I try to remember everybody. It's a whole long list of people who decided that yes, we're gonna be a part of it. And we're excited. We're really excited. I'm most excited about when you find out who the Willy Pa, what would be your reaction? It's like,
because I inquisitive, but Kira might say a fast or nosy, but I call it inquisitive.
oh no, I think that's the whole thing. People fast, and everybody say, hey, who that Willy Pa? Somebody say that Shalai. Maybe.
Well, it might be Shalai, or Willie Pa might be Willie uncle in a real life. Nobody really know. Willie Pa might be Willie grandpa. Nobody know because all of their thing press. Willie Pa might be Willie steppa. We don't know.
See?
We really don't know who that Willie Pa. But the only way to find out who that Willie Pa, I forgot to play when you say October 24th and
October 24th and 25th, 7 p.m. at the Bliss Center. So we're looking out for everyone to
how
come out.
much are the tickets?
So we have our VIPs for $100, our reserve for 45, and our general for 25.
Excellent. So if you look for states, you could send one ticket home for somebody.
Can.
We have a
You know, I actually am looking for people who want to sponsor tickets for my sanitation workers here in Belize. Anybody who want to sponsor, the garbage collectors, the ladies who, every single day they're on the streets picking up garbage, all the garbage that people just drop, or, when garbage can collect and they left garbage, they're picking up our garbage. I would love if somebody would sponsor these women because they're hardworking women.
how many of them? Because maybe everybody can pick up somebody, you know.
Right.
So
There-
somebody
Yeah.
can't buy 100 tickets, but 100 people can buy a ticket each and
Yes.
send it home. Where do you send the money for these tickets? And
We have both Zelle and we
You froze.
you can't freeze when you're about to give out the
I
money,
know.
Melissa. Come on now, we're gone. Because I look for write this down because I think people would be very interested to at least Melissa gone, Charlotte.
You froze.
Must have run out of internet. Not just a joke. Well, I think that's a great idea, Charlotte. I think I will commit to at least get two tickets for two sanitation workers. I think it's important for us to contribute in that way, bring some joy to
Yeah,
this
and
space.
that's exactly what I did too, being that I couldn't go, but I could have contributed to somebody that can and
Right?
assist with the tickets. So I know I have other people in the diaspora that I have reached out to that are willing to do the same. One ticket that's only $12.50.
Right.
Um I know she said she has Dell. She also have Atlantic Bank that you can send the money to. So there are two areas that
Do you know any of them? I think she's probably going to try and get back in. I don't know if her phone died. Maybe she just had her phone up and
yeah,
maybe
she
her
said
phone
she
died.
lost us completely. So what would you want?
She can
The
just click back.
Atlantic?
She can just click back in and get back in if she
Uh-huh.
wants to. But I would like both of her in both of the ways people can contribute. They can give me the Zelle number, share the Zelle number here or the Zelle information and the Atlantic Bank information because to be able to buy tickets for people at home would definitely be um, it's a nice thing to be able to do, and especially if you're contributing to a specific class of people. We don't do enough to thank the sanitation workers. How about that? We don't do
I
enough
think so.
time.
Yeah, we do take for granted our sanitation workers. And I think it's very important to help those. So she says she can't get, but the link is saying invalid.
Well,
Um,
okay.
but you can Zelle to Mary Frances Espa or to Belize Bank
Mary Frances Espat is the name on Zelle.
on Zelle. Mary Frances Frances
Frances, Espat.
Espat is the Zelle account. And then for reading rights, it's at Belize Bank. Um, Reading Rights is her company, and it's
And the
Belize
number
Bank
is
account. Huh?
the account number
1912
1912.
630
Uh-huh.
1012 0000.
Okay. 1912630101200000.
Yes.
I'm going to write it in the comment section. So if you're watching this and you want the information to be able to Zelle or contribute to a few tickets or a ticket for a sanitation worker to be able to go and see the play called Willy Pa or anybody, send your money here and they're going to use the money to buy tickets for these people to be able to go and see the play. I think that's a sweet, sweet, sweet gesture. Like I said, because we don't do enough for the sanitation workers, and without them, everything went dirty.
And the good thing is, a proceed of the play is also going into to BFLA, to Belize Family Life Association. So it's going towards the cause, um, which is also good.
I like it. I love it. Charlotte, I want to say thank you for bringing on Melissa because that's a really wonderful way to start off the week. The cause, the show, the everything about it. Hopefully, we can get the opportunity to talk with Melissa a little bit more about these issues or at least some of these issues that we started on this morning. I feel like we don't get to talk this morning, but no worry, we'll be back tomorrow. If you're out and about, Ray is willing to come again tomorrow. not
For the
sometimes.
Wednesday, we have another topic that we can bring on because it's a very important day. It's the remembrance of pregnancy and infant loss. And
Okay.
on that day is the day that we remember our babies that we lost on that day, the stillborns and women who have miscarriages. So
So Wednesday morning, 7:30, we will be back.
Wednesday morning, 7:30, we'll be here and we'll have a special guest.
Excellent. Again, Charlotte, I say thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda.